All right, you're welcome back. It's still AM Chat on MITV. Thanks for still being there with us. And of course, we told you before we went on that break about the subject matter this morning. We are highly honored that Mr. Henry Boyer, a very renowned economic expert, is here with us to talk about the subject matter. NBS just revealed to Nigeria. Nigeria has exited economic recession. We're looking at the facts, the figures, and realities. And of course, our guest, Mr. Omashola Vincent, call him a political technocrat, and of course, a human resources consultant, is still here with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Boyer, for coming on the program. And of course, Mr. Vincent is still here with us. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Okay, the lines are open. You can call us 007454-48324 on the show this morning. I'm going to start with Mr. Henry Boyer. I don't know, first, how did you receive the news? Because you're one personality that's always, you have this, what I call it, microscopic eye for economic matters. And of course, you've always monitored certain policies and decisions and tried to propose solutions. Let's look at the facts on the ground. Is Nigeria really, have we exited recession?
Well, thank you very much for your opening comments. I comment on the Nigerian economy. I'm not necessarily an expert, but I comment on the Nigerian economy. Okay. But the issue you have brought up, that of exiting from recession, should be a heartwarming result. That is the indices published by the National Bureau of Statistics. But we have to be very, very cautious indeed. The magnitude of the increase on GDP is very paltry. In a country like ours that has so much deprivations, infrastructurally, socially, and in almost every other perspective, you would require that you would require a growth rate in the region of about 15%, okay, to become meaningful. For us to catch up, we have to have a growth rate of something in the region of 15%. China, even with its state of development, is talking 6, 7, 8%. So in order to catch up, we should be talking of 15%. But having said that, the process should be thoroughly examined to make sure that we are not just running around in circles. The reason why I say this is because technically you do not expect that a structure that accommodates cost of funds, for example, at 20-something% and also inflation at over 16%. Those are not significant drivers of growth. Okay, those figures are anti-growth. So when you find your industrialists having to borrow at 25% or thereabouts, and growth has to be fired by consumer demand. In a situation where inflation is also touching 16%, you would be expecting that there will be a huge contraction in consumer demand. And without that consumer demand, what are you going to produce for? So if you have a situation where inflation is eroding your purchasing power, and at the same time, the industrialists who are supposed to manufacture and offer services find that not only is there no demand to satisfy, or demand is gradually contracting, but they also have to borrow at 25%. It is like having your car in reverse gear. So to even expect that you would do better with those kind of structural indices would be really deceptive.
Okay.
So consequently, I would say we should be very careful that we do not over-celebrate this minor growth, especially when the growth may just be nominal.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Vincent, some experts have termed this to be another political statement, possibly to calm nerves with the current situation in the country. But how do you see this? He has just given more like a technical perspective to it, but we're still going to talk about certain realities. Do you think that this is a political statement?
Yeah, he's borrowing from Mr. Boyo. In his last statement, he said that we should be very cautious not to celebrate this. I cannot agree with him more about celebration. Celebration only, quote unquote, on the part of the bourgeois, those in political power, the quote unquote the big men in Nigeria, those politicians, they could be celebrating because for all they care, they just made a statement, and within their different circles as politicians and parties, they are, those who want to run critiques will run critiques. Those who want to say, look, our party is doing well, we are doing well. But celebration on a larger note should involve every Nigerian. And the way it should have come should have been, wait a minute. I went to the market yesterday, I bought a piece of fish for 200 naira. Now they say something, and I'm getting a piece of fish now for 50 naira. Man, in his house, he doesn't need to call back. He will say, look, there's celebration. And I think that is missing just now. That is missing. In reality, that is actually missing. And I think the president has been magnanimous in today's paper. I said we must be cautious. For me, 0.55% is too infinitesimal for us to celebrate about. I mean, and all that. But for me, more like a political statement, more like trying to make the sitting government feel good that after all their policies are beginning to yield results. But to the rest of Nigerians that I think I am in constant touch with, and all that, I don't think it adds up.
Okay.
It adds up.
Now, Mr. Boyo, do you see this as a political statement, really?
You see, whether or not it is a political statement, I think should not be debated. We should be talking of the reality in terms of its impact, on the majority of Nigerians. And as Omashola has just said, I made a presentation 2 weeks ago to an audience, and I said to them, I asked them a question. I said, we do recognize that Boko Haram has decimated a lot of villages and killed a lot of people, and also created disturbances within the economy of Nigeria. I said, but tell me, any one of you here in this audience, about 200 of them, which one of you has been directly impacted by Boko Haram? And nobody put up their hands. And I said, well, let's look at the Niger Delta militants with the disruption to oil and things like that. How many of you have been directly impacted by this? And they said, nobody answered. And I said, well, how many of you have gone into the shops or gone to the market? And when you come out, you see the number of what you have bought in your basket, you wonder if some money has been stolen out of your pocket. And everybody said, that's inflation. Inflation is economic terrorism. Okay? And there is nothing more devastating as when inflation gets out of control. 16% rate of inflation is horrendous. It means that every 4 or 5 years, anybody who earns any static income would absolutely lose any purchasing value for their incomes. Okay. So in reality, I think we should digress on the area of politics and concentrate on the facts on the ground. As Omashola has said, most Nigerians, you'll be surprised what insecurity is created by the level of inflation that you go into the market. You can't imagine the number of families that have been destroyed as a result of husband and wife fighting over money, and this cuts across the whole country. So it is very important that when we are talking of economic growth, we should not discount the critical factors that drive growth everywhere. A low rate of inflation to ensure that people's consumer spending can be kept, at an optimal level,
Okay.
because that's the only thing that stimulates investment.
All right,
And
thank you
should
very much.
also be
Yeah.
careful that you do not borrow at 25%, because that
That's
only kills your
That's-
innocence.
I'm sure Mr. Shola wanted to make a comment on that. But before you go ahead, we have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning. Hello. Okay, the numbers to call 0074548324. Okay, we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, go ahead with your call. All right, thank you. All right.
My concern is about the issue of math.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that will be a subject matter for another day. Sorry, the focus now is on the recession. I think this is Mr. Sholobi, you wanted to say something?
No, it's just like buttressing what Mr. Boyo said. All caution was put in place now by Nigerians, especially with the news that we said this and yet they're not experiencing anything. We are not experiencing and the effect, the ripple effect it should actually have. Nigerians are not beginning to experience it yet, and yet we are going out now celebrating that we are exited the recession. I just think Nigerians ought to be very, very, very cautious now. If like you said, borrowing is still at 25% and all that, pre-recession, it was like that. Recession, it was like that, and existing recession is still the same thing. I don't know where we are going to. But like I said, let's be realistic with what's on the ground and let's leave out politics.
Okay, we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yeah, good morning. Go ahead.
You were talking about recession.
Yes.
Yes, the recession is too high now for us. We are suffering. Suffering something higher. Let's see 95%, it's above 200%. Please, and please, the government should look into it. But my suggestion, from here, I'm from Gospel State.
Okay.
What does this government to do? That they should send delegates to monitor the villagers who can do farm. Tell somebody to look at the to have how many acres of land, they want, they two, can you be able to do this? We thought that there's no concern with the day one. One, but I am a farmer myself. I want the government to monitor the governors who say I have given $1 billion to the agriculture to do farms. Nobody gives us money. This is mostly my estate. We are in farm in the area of farming. We want government to come to Crossriver State, give us money to do farms. How is our problem? We don't have company in Crossriver State. Mostly Ogoja, I'm from Ogoja.
Okay.
My name is Mr. Matthew Appreciate from Ogoja.
Okay.
We need the government, our head. Help us, give us money to do farms because we don't have the money. No company there, no factory there, no industry there, no great factory, nothing there in Crossriver State. Which is the local government as a whole. Up to Ogudu. The government there now has nothing to think about the people. So please, I need the government to look into us, help us to do farm. Don't give us money to go and eat. Give us money to do farm. We will not be bad. I'm assuring you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Matthias. Mr. Boyo, he's talking about, actually directing funds to very key areas. That's more like an example from Cross River State, and we've been talking about agriculture. What he has said actually replicates in other parts of the state. So, how can we begin to help, the rural people really? What should be the policy direction?
I was quite impressed that he indicated that they shouldn't, what is required is not cash intervention.
Yes.
Because the problem we have with the economy is that of, believe it or not, surplus cash, excess cash.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because a lot of people don't understand, when government or government agencies talk about cash interventions in various respects, they actually believe that it would help to positively drive whatever objective they have. But in reality, it is has the effect of similar to pouring petrol on fire. If your national problem, your national headache, the biggest headache of the monetary authorities is one of surplus cash, believe it or not, and they are struggling and making every effort to dry up. In Delta, we used to say water pass Gary. When water pass Gary, what do? You try to drink the water so you can get. So when you have a situation where there is surplus cash, in Yoruba they say, that kind of thing. Yes. When you have surplus cash, it drives inflation. Okay. And as I told you, inflation is economic terrorism, especially with this virus. So the major requirement of every government, the prime objective, apart from, in addition to security, in fact, inflation being a terrorist is also a factor of insecurity. So the major requirement, the major objective of any government anywhere in the world is to keep inflation at manageable levels, not above 2 or 3%. When you have inflation at 16%, it means you have unleashed economic terrorism on your people. So consequently, in order to remove the problem of this surplus cash that seems to have been in the country for maybe 30 years or so, a Gomagbe kind of money, you'll find that the central bank does something which is very odd. It starts to dry up the money, not for free. It pays the banks up to 15, 18% in order to take the money back. We have a situation where the money taken back and borrowed in such terms and for which such interest are paid are not supposed to be applied to anything. They are not supposed to be applied to any meaningful project. They are supposed to dry the water out of the Gary kind of thing. Okay. And so when you have a situation where your own central bank is happily paying 18% to borrow such money, and then you similarly talk of intervention funds, the central bank is busy mopping up, and you're talking of intervention funds to add to that problem. Yeah. It is abnormal, and that kind of arrangement can never drive the economy.
Okay, thank you very much. In case you just join us, we're looking at the National Bureau of Statistics. Yeah, good morning. We have a caller. Good morning.
Yeah, this is Jason calling from my state.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, they said we are out of economic recession.
Yes.
But one of the problems of this very administration is insecurity, lies, because they are up there. They don't know what people are going through here. If they should come to see what people are suffering, I'm an evangelist. At least Sunday in my church, I spent more than 7,000. Not that I have much. People are queuing up. They have not eaten since yesterday. You give them the bank. You give their children that they are not going to do. You go against your pocket to make sure you can get it. Why would this government be punishing people, bringing hunger, and they are there lying that they are out of the economic recession? That is a very big problem of administration. Lies. Until it reflects from the people, the masses, they should stop telling us like we are not out of the economic crisis. The fact remains that Nigeria is in economic recession. They should think that the prices of goods, forget it like other countries do. Why are we importing here and exporting here when we cannot afford them? How much are we buying to that ourselves? These governments, they are not real. They are fake and they are lying to what they are posting Nigeria. People are angry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Evangelist. I didn't get your name. Mr. Shola Vincent, he said there is hunger in the land. The present government is insincere. The only solution, if we want to feel the impact or the reality that yes, we're out of recession, the prices of goods must go down. What's your take?
Yeah, I think so. I cannot agree with him in this. Truth of the matter is that for the layman, all these recession, existing recession, NBS, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, 0.5%, the fourth quarter, fifth quarter, blah, blah. They don't understand this. They don't understand it. What they understand is, hey, what purchasing power has my money now? That's what they understand, and that's how they can measure it. And for me, the simplest way for a layman to measure this there are two ways to go about it. The simplest way. One, if the price of petroleum products in terms of pump pricing remains the way it is, although the Minister of State said last week that is coming down to something, I don't know, but that's, except that comes down tremendously. Farmers from the farm bringing goods into the cities, their prices remain the same. In fact, for most farmers, their goods even go bad. Their goods go bad. The products from the farms go bad because they cannot afford transportation. They cannot afford to live there and come to. People go to buy. So they live this. That is a major effect. It has a direct effect on the price of food.
They have preservation challenge.
It has an effect on the price of food. Yes, where Nigerians measure the economy, the other Nigerians, the exchange rate of the dollar. The dollar in the last 2, 3, 4 months has been between 360 and 370, and it's hovering up and down like a yo-yo. That we are an import-oriented economy. Everything you buy from the market is affected by the price of the dollar. Almost everything you buy. Even the local content of those manufactured in Nigeria, in terms of percentage, is equally infinitesimal. So prices will continue to soar until the government does things that are, in fact, for me, the government went to town too early to announce that we are exiting this. I mean, they went to town too early. People should have been feeling this by, have you bought this lately? The price of buying baby food now is gone this. And women tell themselves this in the market. And all that. The government went to town too early and tried to sing, I think for me, MBS is like trying to sing a praise song that, look, we are doing this. We don't need it now, because for the average Nigerian, like the last caller just said, the feeling of the economy, the impact of existing recession should be something that everybody could experience physically, not by way of verbal statements and verbal talks. And I think that the government will have to do something about it.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take a call now. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, you're welcome. What's the name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Chris and I'm calling from Israel.
Okay, so what's your reaction on the subject matter?
My reaction is nothing else than the announcement of the art of situation.
Yes.
How to do it. It's about figures and reality. I'm surprised that one of these things are still as high as they are.
Okay.
Like, a friend of mine was telling me that I bought 2 billion naira before this government. As I'm talking to you today, before this government. I will see our person, our conversation. Food prices are too high. A packet of mackerel, what is it called? Packet that was bought for 70 naira to 200. If you are very out of situation, they have to do something. They are the people that know that we are out of situation, but the common man in the street don't know until the fact is that we support government. Things are supposed to be done for us and done that here. We are out of situation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boyo, let's more like take our minds back to Jonathan's administration. Well, things were a little bit affordable compared to when the new government came in. Well, the argument has been that Nigeria is having this experience of what we're experiencing now because of the failures, or you understand, or the nonsensical policy formation of the last government. So we are feeling the bite. Where do you think they got it wrong, really?
Who got it wrong?
I mean, whosoever the economic experts, before we came into recession, can we rightly say that whatever happened, the economic recession came as a result of the last administration's mistakes? Can we?
You see,
yes.
let's cast our minds back to when we even posted what was supposed to be much more attractive growth figures of 7%. I don't want to be political, whether it's, but we know at one stage the growth rate was 7% or thereabouts. The reality was, of course, that things did not change. Inflation was still in the double digits all through that period. Okay. And Nigerians could not have said, oh, life was better even under Jonathan. I mean, that's nonsense. Because
the common man will say that
no. Let's be quite honest with ourselves. In a situation where inflation is raging at between 10-15% all through Jonathan's administration, you couldn't really say things. Well, I suppose you could say comparatively 10-15 compared to 16 is still better. But in terms of the actual impact on the citizens,
the purchasing power during Jonathan was meaningful.
Look, we have been rather wicked to ourselves. At a stage, the minimum wage was set at 18,000 naira about 6 or 7 years ago. Okay, since that time, and even within the Jonathan administration, the naira had lost so much value. Even at that time, we're talking of almost 200. In other words, the 18,000 naira minimum wage had become possibly close to $100 or something, even during Jonathan's time. So in other words, there's been this steady decline. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Steady decline from the last administration. So
no, not from it. Inside, there was decline throughout Jonathan's administration. So it's not I'm not saying this one is better.
Okay.
What has just made it worse is the precipitate devaluation of the naira, which has scattered everything. But what I'm saying is that it was a storm in the making. All through Jonathan's time, all through Obasanjo's time, this storm has been brewing. Okay? I want you to understand this. Economies run within frameworks or modules. And the structure on which any successful economy runs must be driven by a low rate of inflation. During Jonathan's time, during Obasanjo's time, inflation was never 1 or 2%. Okay? It was always 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13%. In other words, you're changing the purchasing power of your people. If the purchasing power or the consumer affects your consumer demand because your money is buying less and less, what would happen is you would also have a drawback in the area of production, especially when the people who are supposed to produce have to borrow at 20% or thereabouts. So consequently, I think you would be making a big mistake if you say in Jonathan's time, they were all defective, they ran defective monetary policies, and this, unfortunately, this government has not understood that you cannot say you are driving the economy for growth when inflation is 16% instead of 1.5%, because as all the callers have said, it's the pangs of hunger, finding that your money cannot buy. It is worse than the terrors of Boko Haram, the Niger Delta militants, and what have you. So unless the government recognizes this, and you see, take for example, when you go into the market, the women sell these tomatoes, their little things, their little thing like that. Let's say that cost of a tray of tomato, little tray of tomato used to be 200 naira, okay?
Now it's now 400?
Now it's 400, okay? Thereabouts. So, but you find that when the seller of that tomato adds up his sales at the end of the day, if it's only one tray he sold 400. You will say, what? He has increased his sales, but it's the same thing. So when you have a situation where, even though productivity may not have increased, but the prices of goods and services have gone up, it will seem as if you are actually growing. Okay? That's why I say you grow in nominal terms, but in real terms, you might actually be in deeper trouble.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a caller on the line. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. You're welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Jason Mobile.
Okay.
I'm calling from Montreal.
All right. You ought to go ahead.
Yeah. Concerning the subject matter,
Yeah.
if you will ask me, I will only believe them when a senator receives 200,000 per annum. Meaning that with 50,000, you can stop a chicken from food and marketing for the year. Then I will believe that you are out of the election.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Shalami. He has reached that. If a senator begins to receive 200,000 per annum, that means yes, recession is really. What do you think, really?
You see, his call is not too different from the earlier caller. You know, it's. I think at the end of the day, it's just the NBS and that's by extension the government is just letting people ridicule.
Okay, let me quickly take you up on this now. It looks from what he's saying on the tone, it looks like there's so much heavy spending in government. I think that is the message he's trying to say here. If we decide to cut down on expenditure at the federal level, because this, of course, will dovetail again into restructuring. Because Nigerians, experts have argued that, look, why the center is too attractive. The center is taking so much. So if you allow the states to control their resources and make the center a little bit weak, so this will reduce expenditure, and of course there'll be more, more money or more.
I think, in my own opinion, every spending from the center or from the state governments has never abated in Nigeria.
Is a major factor.
It's always on the increase, and I think going forward, we should not be looking at the central government or the state governments. I think that we should start thinking of building very strong institutions that can manage our monetary policies without, fear or favor to whatever government is in power. We should think of doing things. The CBN will think of doing things that are in line with what economic realities are. The MBS will come, not just release a report this way. MBS said this was in second quarter. And if this is we are in third quarter, in fact, I'm sure this is the end of the third quarter. And if at the end of the third quarter, we are not even experiencing what they said, they experienced in second quarter, is it possible that we have gone back into the recession again? Because the report they gave was a report of second, that terminated the second quarter. And this is the third quarter. And in third quarter, the Nigerians are still complaining this way, meaning after a quarter, things are still starting, things are still going up. Then what are we talking about? For me, money in the center, we all have agreed in Nigeria that the government expenditure for its officials and its upkeep and all that is very high, even at local government levels. When you have the local government, the wife of a local government chairman with a siren car blaring with some police escorts and all that, these policemen don't come cheap if they are paid. Whose monies are these monies? They are people's monies. I think what we need very strong institutions that will not bend to the whims and caprices of governments in power. That no, we cannot do this, please. There should be a template for every institution, and that's the way it should go. And for me, that's where you can reduce. You can say, okay, fine.
Okay, we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yeah, good morning to you.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. These people that are saying we are out of recession, I don't think they have been inside recession. They have not been inside recession. So they are just saying us, they don't know the meaning of recession, they have not been into recession, they actually have not experienced it. So somebody that has experienced it is someone that can exist in that recession. Someone that has traveled to London and come out of it. They have not been in that recession. I can't even say they are in this recession. They don't know the meaning of recession. If they were born, I don't think they have the meaning of recession. So they spend money and they do not buy cup of the scam, right? Or the scam that is in the market. To know that it's not going to
Thank you very much. I think basically he's talking about the realities here. But Mr. Boyo, would it be right to say that corruption, the high-dreaded monster, is actually responsible or has dealt a big blow on the Nigerian economy? Yes, of course, yes, this is what everybody's saying. Of course, we also have, because it looks like somebody said, let's say a Ghanaian who's a financial expert in Ghana, he said Nigerians, the so-called professionals, do not actually understand the dynamics of the economy. I'm talking about the politicians really as well. So it's a major problem. Well, can we say that with the fight against corruption, if it's sustained, could it help us out?
Well, first let me say that the gentleman who said that the politicians don't understand how the economy works is probably correct, but it's more likely to be that they do understand, but it's not in their favor to run it in a manner that it will benefit more people, because it is not rocket science.
So it looks deliberate?
I think it's conscious and deliberate. For example, I mentioned earlier that inflation is the key word. It's inflation that everybody is complaining about. They are giving it different connotations, but the impact of what they're saying is, I go to the market, the money I have in my hand buys less and less and less. That's the basic thing. Okay, so how is it that inflation has become so irrepressible? Okay, as I said, inflation is a factor of too much money. The question then becomes, where does the too much money come from? And how come that it never ceases to be too much money? That the central bank itself does something that is anti-productivity, anti-people, and borrows money that they don't need for as much as 18%. How do you expect that you would ever grow if your own central bank is consciously betting against its own currency? What happens when the CBN says they are intervening? And that sounds like a good word, intervening with dollar into the market, but it's really a destructive process, because when they say they are intervening with more dollars, and people say, at least central bank is, we are slowly killing ourselves without appreciating it, because the central bank now intervenes by doing what? Auctioning the dollar against its own currency. Anything that you auction, Mr. Peters, you would be expecting higher prices for it. You wouldn't auction your tie and sell it to the person who says, I'll pay 1 naira. You will sell it to the person who will say, I'll pay 2 naira or thereabout. So when your own central bank is celebrated for auctioning its the dollar, a foreign currency, against its own currency, and the whole country seems to be oblivious of this reality, it would be impossible for you to ever grow, because at the end of the day, the rate of inflation would continue to rise, your exchange rate would continue to depreciate, your people would continue to suffer, because the consumer demand, their purchasing power, is being every day eroded by.
I will take something from Mr. Boyo, Mr. Vincent. It's not as if the politicians don't know, but it's deliberate. Maybe you want to expand on that.
Yeah, but that's the truth. They are very knowledgeable of what's going on.
So it's a calculated attempt to keep the poor poor.
It's been this way all along. It's a how do I call it? There's a better way I would love to describe it with. Let me not go into using the word gang and all that. They are aware of what's going on. They know exactly what's going on.
Okay, the politicians know what to do.
They know exactly what to do. They know exactly. I mean, check them out. Check these guys out. They are very knowledgeable about this economy and live about this economy. Most of these people travel out of this country every now and then, and when they get to these other economies where they go to buy all stores and send their kids to for schooling, they find the economies are organized. They find persons have been good. Look, I know a couple of friends whose children attend schools outside of Nigeria. The fees have been the same fees they've been paying for the last 5-10 years till now. The same fees. It doesn't change. If it's £5,000, it's £5,000. It just keeps going £5,000 1 year, 2 years, and it goes up. That it doesn't go up. It's stable. It's only in Nigeria that the school fees have become like house rent. This year you pay one school fee, the next minute, next year they tell you school fees is up again. It's like Mr. Bowen said, it's inflation. Like we call it different names and all that. It's inflation. Where you have your purchasing power is reduced.
So
why
can't they just control the inflation?
But the problem we've had in this country from time is the problem of selfishness, greed and avarice.
So what we're saying now is that the problem we have now is leadership.
Will the National Assembly stand up someday? I just give an example and say, we have agreed that we, as members of this place, have cut down our salaries to this level. That's the truth.
End to end 200,000 per annum.
And we'll be able to cut this down reasonably. Let's see how it goes. Let the states say this is what we'll do. When you find one politician with several cars and several policemen and several in a convoy and all that. Well, these are
okay. We'll have a caller. Good morning. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah. Good morning. You're welcome. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You would like to make a contribution to this,
Okay, you're welcome. You're on to the show now. You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I can't give you contribution to this program. My name is Mukoro.
Okay, Mukoro, go ahead. You're welcome.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Just go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Am I on the program?
Yes, you're on to the program. You're on to the program.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
This country, this country,
Okay, we seem to have lost that call there. We still want to. We don't have much time. We just have about 5 more minutes to wrap up the program. It's been a wonderful time. Looking at the NBS report that Nigeria has exited economic recession, even the president himself said, "Look, we must also take it with a pinch of salt." And the callers that I've called, quite excited. I'd wanted Mr. Vincent to react to the last caller that subjected us to a session of laughter, really. He said, of course, you've also said it. His argument from the last caller, he said, they don't understand. But Mr. Boyo said, they do understand. So you begin to wonder exactly. So, Mr. Boyo, possibly, okay, we have a caller. Hello, good morning. Hello? Okay, Mr. Boyo, finally from you. Looking at the subject matter, we've looked at the facts, we've looked at the figures, and some of the callers have actually also made us appreciate the realities on ground. Can we say, basically, that we've exited, or we need to go back to the drawing board? Mr. Vincent mentioned something that the NBS was too much in a hurry to come up with this announcement. Do you agree, sir?
Well, the NBS does its job, but I think it's probably more important to emphasize that any expectation that your life in Nigeria, or the life of people in Nigeria will be better, even if the growth rate went as high as 7% or thereabout, which is still quite low for our level, it wouldn't make any difference. In fact, things will continue to get worse. For a very simple reason, obvious reason. We have had times in the past where growth rate was celebrated at 6, 7, 8% all the time. I don't think the people of Nigeria enjoyed any real uplift in their standard of life or anything like that. So even if you expect that we could go as high as 7% and there would be relief, you are deceiving yourself, because we've been there before and nothing happened. Okay, well, not that nothing happened. Things got worse. So I'm just trying to say that look, I made the analysis of the tomato seller who sold and then becomes, let's be careful. We're not celebrating nominal increases because the things that can drive growth are totally out of place. And I repeat again, you cannot have growth of the kind of magnitude you want when consumer demand is hamstrung by inflation rates of 16%. You cannot expect growth and to be competitive and then ask people to patronize made in Nigeria goods when the producers have to borrow at 25%. So long as you're discounting these things, you are just dancing on thin air.
So basically right now, the reality is that we're not out of recession, really.
Forget about the word recession, because I've told you, if even it was 7% growth they posted, you wouldn't be better off, because we have had that experience before.
Okay.
So the reality is that we have put the gear of the economy in reverse gear, because you have it in reverse gear when, first of all, you are deliberately or consciously contracting consumer demand with inflation rates as high as 16%, and when you are also constraining the possibility of your local manufacturing and producers being able to expand their productivity with cost of funds at 20-something%. Where will growth come from, my friend?
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry Boyo. Mr. Vincent, final from you.
For me, I still maintain that the report, shows exactly that there's a disconnect, a total disconnect between those in power and those and the people. It's a disconnect, between what they have just said and the realities on the ground. For me, my layman's suggestion, when things like this happen, I think somewhere around the presidency or in the state governments, they let them have a media room. And it's a public media room, where they can sit down there and make, like who have made calls to us here today, where people can make calls to local government, to the markets, and let them call in again. How is today? What's happening today? What has happened today? And let them begin to have a reality, an impact of what people are feeling and all that. We've had about 4 or 5 calls here now, and they all are singing the same song. So there's a disconnect.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marshall Vincent, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And of course, Mr. Boyo, thank you. I'm so grateful. At very short notice, you were here. Okay, that's it this morning. And of course, I want to thank those who have called in. The euphoria that we have exited recession, even the president himself have said, look, it's not time to celebrate. But of course, in the days ahead, from the discussion here, our leaders must go back, especially the so-called economic experts, need to go back to the drawing board and look at that result carefully and marshal out fresh new strategies to move the economy forward. And the message here is it must translate to Nigerians giving value to their purchasing power and making life better. And that's it this morning. Thanks for watching. My name is Benjamin Peters. Have a beautiful day.